Hi, and welcome to this podcast with me, Gita Joshi. I'm an art dealer, a curator, and the producer for Open Studios. And today I am here with Liz Atkin. Welcome, Liz.
Hello, Gita. Thank you for having me.
So I'm really pleased you're here. We actually first met on social media, and then we met when I came to see you when you had Open Studios.
That's right.
Was in this November, actually.
Yes, yeah. November just gone, actually, yeah. So I'm based on Havelock Walk in Forest Hill. So we're a community of artists. There's about 30 of us that live and work here. So I've been here for about 7 years now, I think. So yeah, that's where we met.
But you haven't been drawing for all that time, so what were you doing before that?
So drawing is quite a new thing in my life, actually. So I've come to art, I guess, quite late, and I've been making kind of visual art for about 10 years, but drawing was not part of my practice until, about three and a half years ago now. And drawing actually has become something I do every day, and it's quite a weird thing to even think that that's something that's now part of what I do.
So integral to your day and
Absolutely,
what you do, right? So you do that when you go places, when you go and see your mum, you have to take paper with you?
Absolutely. So I have a mental health condition, actually, which is where most of my practice has developed from. So I have a disorder called dermatillomania. It's a very fancy name for compulsive skin picking.
Right.
So this is a kind of complex disorder that is actually quite common, but not many people know they have it. And I suffered from it quite badly from early childhood until I was in my 30s. And I didn't really know it was a thing.
So what does quite badly mean? As in you're doing it on visible places on your hands and face? Or?
Yes. So skin picking would happen a lot on my face, my back, my arms, my fingers, my knees, my feet, my chest. So anywhere that I felt there was something strange, like a blemish or a bit of dry skin or a hangnail, I would pick it off, which is quite a normal kind of grooming behaviour that everybody probably does. But for those of us that have skin picking, it doesn't stop there. You kind of feel you need to keep going. And skin picking became a really enormous problem in my life. And by the time I was 30, there were wounds and marks under my clothes all the time.
Oh, that's what I was going to say. So, you're literally, doing it till you're like almost raw and bleeding.
Yeah,
wow.
Absolutely. So the kind of dichotomy in my life was that I'm really interested in theatre and performance. So I actually studied theatre and dance. I didn't study art at all. So I've come to art through performance instead of kind of through a sort of traditional training in art. So this is why charcoal is quite a late addition to my practice.
You've always worked in charcoal though? The 3 years you've been drawing?
Yes, but prior to that, all my work was photographic and performance based. So I've been making kind of images of my body sort of covered in different kinds of materials for a long time. Sometimes kind of submerged in water or acrylic paint, applying things directly to my body and taking photographs. So this sort of texture thing has been with me for a long time, but drawing actually started when I got very ill. I had a nervous breakdown about 4 years ago now, and I had about a year off work. Things were very dark, very bad, and I started to kind of have therapy and take medication. So I had depression and anxiety, and my skin picking came back really badly. So even though I'd been sort of got it under control by making sort of visual art about it, then when the sort of depressive episode hit, it came back really badly. But a friend here from Havelock, another artist here, she bought me a box of charcoal, and the rest is kind of history.
That's
I started
amazing.
drawing to sort of actually to stop panic attacks from happening. Drawing became something very mindful to kind of help me, and now.
So what do you think that was like? Is that like kind of keeping your hands busy?
Yes.
But because you've mentioned things around the sensation, right, of actually handling the material,
Absolutely.
The paper, and then...
So the disorder is quite a physical disorder. So I would actually scan my body with my fingertips to sort of feel where I would want to pick things. It's kind of a weird thing to talk about. But I think for me, charcoal is the kind of perfect medium to transpose that energy of skin picking into a mark making process. So the charcoal is very messy. It covers my hands. It's smudgy. It's textured. My work is very repetitive, and actually that's, I think, a very useful thing. It feels very close to what the disorder feels like. So the repetitive mark making, the kind of physical, very sort of energetic way that I make, it feels very similar to the disorder itself. Yeah.
And what about so what you're actually then drawing? Because
so it's a bit of a mixture of things.
Talk to us about the big pieces.
So we're sitting in my studio at the moment where I've got about 6 of these large drawings, and I call them pouring mountains. I kind of wet the charcoal as I draw, and they're quite quick. They take sort of 15 to 20 minutes to kind of get the shape and the pattern onto the page. And I actually, if I get up in the morning and I feel quite stressed or anxious, it's the first thing I come in and do, and I start my day by creating one of these. So they've become a hugely important part of everything I do.
Certainly a part of a morning routine as well, right? I mean, people talk about morning routines a lot at the moment, certainly at this time of year, don't they?
And here we are in January.
In January. And, people don't add drawing onto that list. It's always a meditation. But I think it is for you, isn't it, in some degree?
They feel very meditative, absolutely. And I when I'm actually doing the drawing, I feel like this kind of zoned out place kind of happens, which is very calm. And even though they're quite kind of dark and they've got a lot of kind of angsty energy to them, actually the process of making them is very soothing for me.
Nice.
So that's the larger pieces are these, but I've also been giving away drawings on the train, which is another thing that I do every time I'm on a train. I draw. So when I'm sedentary, the skin picking disorder doesn't go away. I have to sort of manage it every day. It's a disorder that doesn't have a cure, so you can't take medication to stop it. So for me,
so is it more a habit though? Is it some?
It's in the sort of family of habit disorders.
Right.
Yes. Okay. So there's a lot of people are more familiar with the hair pulling disorder, where people pull their hair out when they get stressed or anxious. So skin picking is in the same family as that. So a lot of people respond to therapy or medication, but I didn't really want to take medication for the rest of my life. So for me, drawing has become the thing that helps the most. And I create these graffiti drawings, which is the other thing I kind of give away.
Because we see a lot of those on social media, on your Instagram platform, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So what do you do there? Tell people. So you pick up the newspaper, whatever that's at hand?
Every time I'm on a train, I pick up newspapers that are kind of discarded in the carriage around me, but also if I'm doing a long journey, I'll just grab a bundle as I get on the train.
Oh right, okay.
And then I graffiti them, so I graffiti over images that kind of jump out at me, and I kind of draw over them very quickly. They take about a minute. And the first few times I started doing this, it was an accident because I ran out of a sketchbook on the train and I felt like I was going to have a panic attack, and to stop it from happening, I picked up a paper that was next to me. So that was the start of it, and now I give away a huge number. So I'm up to about 16,000.
So those ones, firstly, so many questions. How do you manage messy charcoal on the train?
Wet wipes.
Oh really?
Yeah.
And do you take a fixative or anything?
No.
You've got a can of hairspray in there.
No. I think I'll get in trouble.
You probably would.
Transport for London might be after me for that. No, I tend to just draw inside the paper and fold the paper and give it to a passenger.
Ah, okay.
So, and people have witnessed it happening, so they know it's a messy thing that's happening. And then as I get off the train, I clean up with wet wipes.
Okay.
Need to get shares in wet wipes, really.
Yeah.
I get through quite a lot.
That was my real thing. How do you get them, home? But I can see, that totally makes sense that you've just got them actually inside the newspaper.
Yeah. So when the passenger receives one, they also get a little postcard that explains why I'm doing it. Because I realise that people aren't necessarily going to have a full conversation with me on the tube, but they might take a postcard, read the postcard, and then see what I'm doing and take the drawing. So actually, it's a kind of easy way to kind of advocate what this is.
And that's really good actually, because it gives context as well, doesn't it, to everything. But how do you choose who to give it to? Is it that because they've been watching you draw?
It's fascinating. I've become so kind of obsessed with people's body language on the train, because I can really feel when someone's interested, because there's this sort of weird, and people are nosy as well, right? If someone's reading something,
so different, right?
If you're on the train, you do look over someone's shoulder, right? What are they reading? What are they doing on their phone? So there's a lot of that. I can feel people's attention sort of change, and then it is just a case of smiling and saying, you've seen me do this drawing, would you like it? And a lot of people don't know what to do and say, no thanks. And then, and then the next person I lean towards and say, well, you've seen this happening, would you like this drawing? They tend to say, yeah, okay. And then the person that didn't get one is a bit annoyed, so then I create another one and give it to them.
Aww.
So there's a sort of, and often there's quite a good banter. Londoners are quite animated, so I either get told very quickly, keep that away from me, it's pretty messy, or a lot of people are kind of delighted and surprised to walk away with something free.
And it is so different as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess So can I inspire you to carry charcoal on the train?
Oh, that might sort of tap into one of my anxieties.
Maybe.
Like a big, filth. So you've told me that around the time that you started using charcoal, you also left your job. You chose to leave that and sort of focus on the artwork full time, right? So, tell us more about that.
So, we were talking previously about social media. I saw a job actually online, and it was advertised on Twitter, and weirdly, it was a messy play job with very young children, with babies. And I thought, well, the artwork I've been making, all the kind of visual art stuff that was photographic and performance-based is very kind of colourful and textured and covered in paint. So I applied for the job. I'd been working in education for about 15 years. That's the job that sort of I decided to move away from in a management kind of point of view. And I got this job in North London, and it was teaching very young children. So the sort of social media looking for work thing became a sort of way of making new connections around where life was taking me after the sort of episode, and starting to get better. I realised that actually this was a hugely useful medium. So now Twitter is actually a very important part of my work as an artist. I get a lot of opportunities through that, lots of invitations to talk about the disorder. This disorder doesn't get very much press. And I actually made the decision really around the time I started to get better that I should be advocating for it and talking about it. So it all sort of coincided with this new life, working with young people and working with children. So now most of my sort of art practice is connected to education and kind of therapeutic settings. So I teach a lot in hospitals and working with very young children right through to kind of university students. And I think the mental health thing that's, underpinned how I got into art in the first place is something that's really present with me whenever I'm working, and all of my freelance work is in some capacity connected to that.
To mental health, which is getting, lots of, it's sort of always in the news, isn't it, these sort of last couple of years, I think. So,
absolutely.
And I think it's really interesting that it's going, that it's not just on, there's lots of things, that are very nuanced, like the skin picking disorder and, hair pulling, that are very nuanced, but that sit under that umbrella.
Absolutely.
So it's actually, really interesting.
And I think, anxiety and depression are huge issues in our society at the moment, and those are the issues that I think I'm constantly aware of in my life. Anyway, anxiety doesn't become something that just clears up. I have to sort of manage it. And I think being able to say that to, working with a group of teenagers, for example, who are going through all kinds of things in their life, it's stressful and it's full of lots of different challenges. So art can be a really great medium to help young people express some of that. And I think that's where a lot of this kind of work and this crossover with the graffiti stuff also hits a kind of interest for young people.
So what sort of places have you done talks, and how do those places, because I think we're around mental health particularly, like teenagers, for example, might not know they have something that is, well, not treatable, but that they have any issues, right? They might just think it's, being a teenager or hormones or whatever.
Absolutely.
So how do they all kind of,
It's been a whole mixture of different things. So I did a talk at Central School of Speech and Drama. So that was a TEDx talk. It was actually organised by the students. And that talk, was shared through the TEDx kind of social media stuff on YouTube, and I've had loads of people around the world, in fact, kind of getting in touch and saying thank you for talking out about this disorder. And actually those sorts of opportunities, I spoke at a mental health event in the summer for young people that was organised by Hearts Theatre, so that was all geared around mental health for teenagers and young people. So when I'm asked to do those talks, I'm really keen to say yes, because I think I never know who's going to be in the room who needs to hear the story of my story, but also that there are routes of recovery that might not be medication, and actually that creative routes can be useful. So
and have you met other people that use art in ways to sort of help them? If it's not skin picking, it's something else.
Absolutely. So I'm actually connected to the Bethlehem Gallery. So I'm one of the artists at Bethlehem. So that's a gallery that's supporting people with lived experience of mental illness. So there's a huge number of artists there that are my buddies, that we work together quite a lot, and we've had a big kind of year last year because it was the 20th anniversary of the gallery. So there was lots of exhibitions and things that brought different experiences of mental illness and recovery through art together.
That's amazing.
So these connections have come through sort of meeting my disorder head on and trying to have a conversation with it, and also connect with other people that have gone through something that's been challenging and found ways to get
better. That's
better.
how like social media's really helped you pull that through, right?
Hugely.
So I mean, how does that happen? Is it just because people disseminate your message, or are you using particular tags to draw attention?
I'm using tags a lot, yeah. So social media on Instagram and Twitter, hashtag mental health, hashtag skin picking, picks up the audience that it needs to. But yeah, also just, following other people that are doing interesting things with their own experience. I think that's really valuable. So filmmakers and musicians who are using music to help people, there've been some great connections through some of the work I've done in hospitals where people are using music, to support people's recovery from different health conditions. There's a harpist who goes into Guy's and St Thomas's to just play music in the atriums, and I think that's completely beautiful. To put music in a space where people are, recovering from all kinds of illnesses, but also it's just a very human thing, I think, to try to help people relax through something that's gentler and calmer. So I wondered, actually, from your work as a curator, do you think that artists sometimes that you've worked with are quite cautious or sort of hesitant of using social media?
I think they are. I think the way I know that is that so many of them actually will only show pictures of their work. They're really hiding behind the work. They'll only show finished work. And for me, there's not enough personality in that. And that's one of the things I really like about your account, was you show work in progress, you show finished work, there's pictures of you, so I know who I'm going to meet if you were going to come and show at the gallery or something, then I was going to sort of blindly approach you and we had no other way of being in touch. Then I know who I'm dealing with and stuff. So I think, artists that, particularly if they want to approach galleries, should, think about that social media as actually being, particularly Instagram, using that as a way to showcase more of themselves, not just the work, work in progress. And that's the other thing I really like seeing is, I know you have like studio shots and stuff like that. Yeah. And it's like actually on my profile, every time I go around studios, I want to take pictures of, paint pots and things. Yeah. But
I think
but I like particularly, and I think one of the things that's really missing, but it really resonates when somebody gets it right, is the storytelling aspect of it. So they've gone to see a show or something, and then a week later they'll put up a post about how that inspired them to experiment about, with a different medium or a different paper or whatever it is. Yeah. And you sort of see that story unfold of that process, the experiment they undertook, the work, that it didn't look great and then they tweaked something and it looked a bit better or whatever it is. Because I think, life is made up of these little stories and connections and things. Yeah. And you can really use social media to tell that, particularly with art, right? With your art life. Yeah. Certainly for those people that are not full-time artists, right? Yeah. And that they want to have their social media account just to be around their artwork and things. Sort of, using that in a more imaginative way. I think the most dull ones are the ones where it's just the finished works or they're so branded. Yeah. And it's like, okay, well, I know what you're about. I'll just move on. Yeah. Whereas I think when they show all these other aspects, I think personality is probably the thing that's coming across in that. So, that's what I like. But
I think I've probably been braver about that as the freelance life has kind of taken hold a bit more. So, I teach bits and bobs and, sometimes just the table set up with equipment before a workshop starts or something might, it connects new people on Instagram who might be interested in education. So all my early years stuff, for example, hashtagging all of that early years and toddlers and art for kids or whatever the hashtags are. And, that connects you with far more sort of valuable and useful other ways of working. I've connected with people.
But I think that also really shows what, in this case, what you're actually doing, right? Yeah. You are actually going out there and, running workshops and you are connected to other groups. Yeah. Whereas if you only showed us, the pictures hanging on the wall here, we wouldn't know any of that, right? And especially on platforms like Instagram that are so visual, as much as I write in the, whatever you call it, the captions, and you do as well, there are times people are just skimming past, right? They're just like, hit like and move on.
Absolutely.
It's like, okay. Yeah. But that's...
I think of Instagram quite like a sort of visual diary, I guess. So there is a lot of kind of messy stuff, or there are more finished things, as you say, but also it is about, these experiences have happened in the last couple of weeks, and these are, talks I've done, or often I'm sharing things other people have done, and there's just really nice. I think there's a nice dialogue can happen on Instagram because it is so visual. So I'm self-taught. We've said that already. So I've been following artists that have a similar sort of process or are working with materials that I'm drawn to. So that's been hugely valuable to look at other ways that artists are working, as you say, and that might inspire something that I do either in a workshop or a class or something in my own practice. So I think it's hugely valuable.
It's a really interesting resource, as you say, in that way as well, right? Because you're researching and things, but it's so easy to make connections as well.
Absolutely.
I really like that. Do you use Instagram more than Twitter, or how do you use them?
I use them the same, really, because I think I have more followers on Twitter than Instagram, but I think the visual aspect of Instagram is important to me. I kind of, it's nice for me to be able to scan back and think, oh yeah, a couple of weeks back, this is what this was looking like, and now it's looking like this. So there is this sort of through line that's much more important. But I guess the kind of the talks and bits and pieces of work that sort of come into my life have come through Twitter. So that's been more valuable, particularly for the kind of mental health connections, because it's more narrative driven. You're actually, able to state things and follow people and look for different kind of connections. So that's been, I think Twitter is useful for work, and Instagram is kind of a visual resource that's very useful. But I can't stress enough how much people should do it, because it really, I was so dubious, especially Twitter. I was like, I don't really get this. People are like stating things that are like their statuses and sending them. But I think as you start to use it and you realise, you can have dialogue with people on the other side of the world, and like amazing things can come through it. I ended up in Singapore at a festival, because I'd started having a conversation with people on the other side of the world about skin. And someone said to me, there is a festival about performance and skin. You should contact them. And this time last year, actually, in January, I went for 2 weeks and I did the graffiti drawings on the train. That came through Twitter, because someone on the other side of the world had said, you have this skin picking disorder, you're doing these drawings, you should apply.
But I think, that's the other thing, isn't it? Your visibility and how prepared you are to show what you're doing in the world. That's probably actually put you to be a better candidate as well over perhaps somebody else that's I think not so.
For a lot of artists that are anxious about that, I think it can be a bit of a leap of faith as well. You have to sort of put your work out there. That's part of sort of stepping up to the table, isn't it? And saying, this is what I'm doing, and making that visible. And I think, it's hugely scary. I said to you earlier that sometimes I feel like a fraud because I haven't been through the traditional training that perhaps I'm supposed to.
You mean like the art school training?
Yeah, and I think that sometimes is an anxiety, but actually when it comes down to it, the most important thing for me is that I'm making. That's more important than worrying about how someone... I can't spend my time worrying about how it's been perceived.
Well, certainly not worrying about what somebody thinks. That's somebody being someone you don't know.
Yeah.
That's.
I think my journey with this has been very sort of connected to wellbeing. So right from the outset, it was never about some of the adventures that have happened. It was much more about, this is a really fundamental thing I need to be doing to help me feel better.
So we've been talking about social media, and you've got another exhibition coming up, right? So tell us about that.
I'm exhibiting in an exhibition in Amsterdam, which is called The Vulnerable Body, and it's opening this month, 20th of January, and it's on until the 24th of March. And this came through social media as well, which is, I know I've been stressing how important this is, but someone started following me on social media who is also an artist who has a health condition, and she's a painter. She's been making work about her own sort of physical sensations and different things with her body. And she started working with a gallery in Amsterdam, and she was curating this show. So she's drawn together 13 international artists who are working with physical or mental illnesses of different kinds. So this exhibition is about how vulnerabilities in our physical health or mental health can actually inspire creativity, or vice versa, how that sort of is a useful connection. So and the other thing that's kind of nice about this is the previous exhibition that the drawings I'm showing were in also came through social media. So I had an exhibition in Derby which was all about drawing, so it's called Finding Lines, and they had found my work on Instagram and on Twitter, And those drawings, which were exhibited in Derby, are now on their way to Amsterdam.
Oh my goodness, that's
this
cool.
sort of strange connection thing that can happen through social media can be really valuable.
How much time do you spend on social media a day?
It depends. I don't use it every day, but if I'm travelling and I'm doing the graffiti drawings, I share those as I travel so that if someone receives one, they can join in and say they've got that particular drawing. So lots of people, message me on social media or share their drawing on their own Instagram account. So that's a kind of useful connection. But yeah, Twitter, I go on Twitter in the morning quite a lot, and I go on Twitter at the end of the day. So I'm sort of the kind of busy bit of the commute is often a useful time because loads of people are on their phones.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of Twitter. Maybe a little bit more. I check that a little bit more.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I think it's building it into your day, particularly if you're wanting to sort of share thoughts and ideas and things that you're working on. I think it's an important tool, really, and it's not something I was expecting to be using at all, but I've ended up finding it incredibly valuable. So
no, I mean, I do agree, it really is. I think the thing I struggle with is I just don't have a set time that I'm on there. I'm on there on and off through the day. But I know I need to sort of commit more structured time to it, really, because I have sold work off there, you know, and it does make money. I know other people that have, you've got international exhibitions. Yeah. This stuff works, but you've just got to build those relationships, have those conversations, get back to people, all of that stuff, it's all really part of it. And there was a time, and I think I found it when I've spoken to other artists, they think that the social media is in the way rather than actually being the path to whatever it is they're wanting, making connections and finding open calls and those things.
Definitely.
Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
It's been so much fun. Why don't you tell us where people can find out more about you and your social media handles?
So my Twitter handle is @Liz Atkin. My website is lizatkin.com. And then my Instagram handle is Liz_Atkin.
Perfect.
Have I done that right? I hope so. Yes.
Yeah, that was all right. And you can find out more about me on Instagram @the Gita Joshi. This is my new account, so let's try and grow that one. That's
excellent.
Trying to build that target up there. And on Twitter is @empower_artists. And all the details are also in the show notes. Thank you, Liz.
Thank you so much, Gita. Thanks a lot.